bitches come and go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to John Dudley Speaks. I'm your host, Michael Cera. Swedish cloud rap legend Young Lean formed the Hash Boys in the early 2010s, which quickly became the Sad Boys, sharing their music on Tumblr and SoundCloud as the era of emo rap started to strike gold in the underground. Young Lean's solo track, Ginseng Strip 2002, is a cult classic, with its release in 2013 putting him on the map due to its unique atmosphere and Lil B-inspired lyricism, which would be a hallmark of his work on Unknown Death 2002. 2014's Unknown Memory came at a time where Young Lean's live performances were showing a lot of promise, as his following was gaining and gaining with every show, leading up to his 2016 record Warlord, and its mixtape follow-up Frost God, capping off a year for him that was transformative and versatile. And that growth continued on works like Stranger, Poison Ivy, and even his indie rock efforts under a different moniker. But it wasn't really until 2020 Stars that Young Lean really ignited my interest, finding such a striking balance of weird and modern that would bleed into his astounding 2022 tape Stardust, which really pushed his formula to the breaking point at times. Now after the alt-rock of Psychos with Blade, as well as collabs with Charlie XCX and Travis Scott, Young Lean is back with Jonatan, a logical continuation of what he's brought to the genre, with new singer-songwriter-inspired tricks, but it lacks cohesion, it lacks filtering, and overall just a semblance of quality control.
I'ma feel whatever is real, sacrifice to kill, sacrifice to love, sacrifice the will, whatever the deal.
With a gauntlet of producers at the helm, Young Lean makes the effort to combine his indie rock work with the cloud rap persona of Young Lean, and it's very much a mixed bag. Rami Dawad, Rex Kudo, Rewind, Carlton, and Sir Dylan are on the boards for Might Not Be, which is purposefully disjointed with its encroaching, haunting, fuzzed out synth loops, introducing the atmosphere of this album pretty confidently. I really like how Forever Young handled the snappy Billy Joel-inspired pep in the backing rhythm, and the sparkling synths are a nice, if not disparate layer, dropping onto a song that already feels a little cluttered, especially with the string patterns in the middle. But there are moments here that are just so vastly overblown, like Horses, which is muddled in the mix, or Teenage Symphony's For God, which is too meandering for its own good. Then there's tracks like Swan Song, Changes, and I'm Your Dirt, I'm Your Love that are interesting at face value, but they don't push the framework enough to capitalize on their unique flourishes. One of Tricks Point Never is a contributor on a couple songs, and his trademark brash, glitchy vibe setting is fantastic, especially on Terminator Symphony, but it just kind of made me wish that the rest of the album was cohesively following that pattern. Yet this album is held back by its insistence on minimalism that leaves the instrumentals with a ton of space, but they're not filled with anything that's all that compelling.
Heaven looks through you. This is a life I choose.
The lyrical references on Might Not Be are pretty clever to start out the record, and even though it does hit those singer-songwriter tropes, it's delivered by Young Lean in a digestible fashion. His dejection and frustration is felt very much across this entire album, mainly on tracks like Forever Young, that are heartbreaking in their regret, remorse, and ultimately acceptance of fate. However, I feel like Lean doesn't tap into that mode enough to justify this abstract storytelling on this record, namely on Horses, Changes, and Teenage Symphony's For God, which have an empty quality to them with their repetitive refrains and choruses. And that's one of the big issues that I have with this album, its odd arrangements. Much of the instrumentals depend on Lean to be the magnetic force at the center of the track, and that's fine, but often what he offers is just not all that descriptive or attention grabbing. There are for sure spots where he lights up our ears with enveloping wordplay and lyricism, like the dark, macabre tilt of Painting the Town Red on Swan Song, and the exploration of toxic relationships on I'm Your Dirt, I'm Your Love. However, these bright moments are marred by inconsequential writing that can't find a correct balance of obscurity and meaning. Usually I'm not bothered by Young Lean's delivery, but this record has serious spots where he's nearly just unlistenable in his singing pitch, to the point where he's in a completely different key, and it just sucks. Horses is a track I definitely won't be going back to for that reason, and the other tracks where he adopts more of a melodic vocal presence, it's just not something that really clicks. On top of that, Lean's flows on this album are among his most forgettable, even when he does tap back into that cloud rap bag like on Might Not Be and Forever Young. The spirituality angle of Teenage Symphony's For God is a low light in my opinion, because for subject matter that requires more vulnerability and openness, he unfortunately sounds listless and uninspired. Changes really suffers from repetition, and Paranoid Paparazzi is stunted by Lean's low energy, so this rejected dour tone just caters relentlessly to a central performance where the main artist doesn't commit to the vibe that they instill. And because of that, the essence of cool and abstract that pervades a lot of Young Lean's material, it dissipates here because of the lack of precision and proficient execution. At 13 tracks and 39 minutes, this album is fairly similar to other Young Lean studio records in its length, but the major change is the genre hybridizing that eschews the cloud rap labels. Because of that, the pacing of this one is really tiresome and it really drags from track to track. Maybe the most dynamic progressions of the record exist in the early portions with Might Not Be and Forever Young, but as we reach the mid to latter sections of the record, the instrumental spinning of its wheels and Young Lean's overall lackluster work on the mic can hamper the successful portions of those tracks. At least Swan Song and Terminator Symphony are solid late highlights, but I honestly felt drained by the time I reached the closing of this one. And it really just goes back to the inherent flaws in the production, the writing style, and the dissonance that these elements provide to the overarching experience.
Don't go wasting your emotions. Lay all your love on me.
Yeah, this wasn't really one of my favorite Young Lean projects, and while I do respect what he was going for, there are decisions made here that are just non-starters for me, and don't really hold up to the aesthetics that he's trying to achieve. It's not bad, but it's definitely not good either. But hey, this is my perspective. If you're a Young Lean fan, I understand why you'd like this one, but maybe this isn't the avenue that's best suited for him. Alright, that's all I got. Bye!